So we're all in complete agreement that there's no way we're ever doing the All-Star game again, right? Last night's Four Nations game between the US and Canada was a fireworks show mixed with a roller coaster, mixed with a war zone, mixed with a cocaine bear. 3 seconds into the game, literally 3 seconds into the game, we already had two fights, and the animosity between these two teams was ratcheted all the way up to about 1,000. It was an electric barn in Montreal for a game that was very close throughout. It was a 3-1 win by the Americans, but that was really only thanks to an empty net goal. It was a one-goal game basically throughout. We got an electrical from Connor McDavid that blew the roof off of Bell Center, followed by some big hits, huge scraps, great goaltending, especially from Connor Hellebuck, and a game that drew a lot of outside attention. I mean, I couldn't tell you how many people I saw on my timeline who barely talk about hockey just raving about this game, and especially bringing up the contrast between that game and the NBA skills competition, which was happening at the exact same time, and featured two players on the Spurs basically trying to hack the system and getting disqualified for it, and one of the most underwhelming slam dunk contests maybe in recent memory. It was just hydrogen bomb versus coughing baby on television. So it is safe to say that this tournament is already a massive success for the NHL. The viewership for the first games was already huge, bigger than anything that the NHL regular season has brought on in a while. Plus that engagement on social media, you can't say anything other than the NHL struck gold on this, and I saw so many people praising this format and wondering why it's been so long since we've gotten best on best international play for the NHL, which more on that in a second. But my main point is that by every measure, this game does exactly what the All-Star game and the skills competition has tried and failed to do for the last few years, which is to try and drum up more interest in the NHL and especially more corporate sponsorship interest in the game. Because you know what stands out to corporate sponsors? Seeing a single game taking over social media the way the US-Canada game did last night across all demographics, and especially seeing just such a high quality of games yesterday. I didn't even mention that before the US-Canada game, there was a game between Sweden and Finland, another rivalry game, which was incredible. It was a 3-3 game going into overtime, but Kyle Granlund scores an overtime winner. Incredibly intense game, back and forth. Hell, Messier and Subban on the ESPN desk were saying they didn't know if US-Canada could top it, which obviously it did very, very quickly. But that was an incredible game that a lot of people didn't get to see as well. But I am sure that they're going to be tuning in for the championship between the US and whoever is going to make it there as well. And I know some people will push back and say that this is hard on the players, and is it really fair to do this every 3 years with the Olympics coming on the 4th year? And I say, screw that. Do whatever you have to do to make this a mainstay instead of the All-Star tournament. If you have to reduce the number of games, do that. If you have to change the format somehow or whatever, do that as well. But you have to keep best on best as a yearly feature in the NHL. This is the biggest bump that hockey has gotten from a regular season game probably since the early days of the Winter Classic. And while I think that there is some worry that the NHL could learn the wrong lesson like they did from the Winter Classic and run it into the ground, I also think that if you just do this once a year, 4-game tournament, that intensity is going to be there every single year, especially because, you know, players don't have to participate in the Four Nations tournament every year. They are welcome to sit out just like they do in the All-Star game, and that will give younger, hungrier players who don't get the chance to represent their country an opportunity. Like Dylan Larkin was saying yesterday, you know, he's never been in the playoffs as a member of the Red Wings. This is the biggest game of his career, and he played like it, getting a goal against Canada that was ultimately the game winner. And by the way, given how successful this game was, can we also point out that NBA plant Gary Bettman has kept the NHL players out of the Olympics for the last 2 cycles, which now seems even more asinine than I originally thought it was. Keep the NHL players in the Olympics every 4 years. Like I said, change the schedule, do whatever you have to do to accommodate for it. Those international games matter a hell of a lot to NHL players. It was a great showcase for the sport of hockey. It got a lot of people amped up and into the sport. It's going to draw a lot of buzz, especially if there's a rematch on Thursday night. So in conclusion, NHL, please, for once in your goddamn lives, do the smart thing. Take the money, take this win, and make sure that it happens more often.